You're listening to the SEO Mindset podcast. Now, we are not your typical how to do SEO podcast. No, we are not. With the help of our guests, we cover those all-important topics around career development, personal growth, and mental health for those working in the SEO industry. You got to be working on your own internal algorithm. Like what we did there. So if you like the sound of our podcast and you think this is a bit of me, shall we crack on with this week's episode?
Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the SEO Mindset podcast, where your hosts are myself, Tazmin Suleman, your very own confidence coach, and my dear friend and podcast coach, Sarah McDowell. New episodes go out every Thursday, and in today's episode, Sarah and I were talking about hobbies. Now, what has hobbies got to do with personal development? Let me shed some light on it. So, we're continuing the theme of self-care and wanted to talk about the seriousness of having a hobby, because doing something creative and generally having fun will actually help you in your career. If you would like to find out more, listen to the podcast. We're going to dive in. And you know what? It's been, I had so much fun recording this with Sarah. We talked about our own hobbies, things that they had helped us with, and the challenges that we faced. So you're in for a treat and a really big insight into Sarah and my hobby life. Not all of our lives, hobby life. Anyway. If you would like to support what Sarah and I are doing, there's various ways to do it. So you could leave us a donation. There is a link in the show notes, and this donation helps us so much keeping the podcast alive. So please, send us a cheeky donation, and we absolutely appreciate it. Another way is to follow us on socials, leave links. We've suggested in the podcast that come onto our LinkedIn page and tell us what hobbies that you have or which ones you would like to develop. And lastly, but not least, leave us a review. So wherever you're listening to this podcast, leave us a review, because that also is deeply appreciated. So now let's get into the serious topic of hobbies. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Tazmin. You have a different background to normal.
Now, can I pull it off that this is my new office? All of these colourful swirls and cuddly toys hanging off the walls is my own background, or are you not going to buy it?
I'll buy it. I mean,
actually at Sabiha's house. So Sabiha's my daughter, and I am recording from here because there's so it's just made more sense to record here. And I do admire her creativity. This is some of the tamer parts of the paintwork. The hallway, so I can see the hallway, and underneath the handrail, we've got do you remember Mr. Blobby?
I do remember
the pink
Mr.
blob.
Blobby.
So we've got lime green blobs, orange blobs, grey blobs, yellow blobs, pink blobs, and white blobs.
All the blobs.
Bit like the lava lamps. So that's why.
I love it. Very colourful. And I'm just noticing what I've got in my background. And I've got an iron this time. So.
Oh, wow. Wow. But not that I was, trying to go for a segue to the topic of today, but actually it has led into it, because I want to talk today about hobbies and fun and all of that good stuff, because we're in August now, and I wanted to carry on this theme of well-being, and today's about fun and hobbies. And I don't know about you, I'm going to go on to you for a minute, but I want to share a bit of a story. And I say this often to you, that I'm not the most fun person. I don't do fun very well. I don't do play very well. And I think it's partly because of the way I was brought up. It was all quite regimented. So have I ever told you the story of my first day at nursery school in England?
No.
So there we were, my cousin and myself were born 4 days apart. And I think we would have been about 4 years old. We went to nursery school. Now, we'd been at nursery school in Tanzania. In fact, we were sent to double shifts. Our parents weren't happy just to send us in the mornings. They found another nursery school that had afternoon shifts, so we went to both. Anyway, so we went to this nursery school and we did the normal reading and what have you. And then the teacher said, now it's time to paint. And my cousin Nassim and I didn't know what to do. Like, what do you mean paint? So there we were, easel, paint, paper, and we're talking to each other saying, what are we supposed to paint? What is this? And we compromised with painting the alphabet in colourful letters because we didn't understand that you could just paint a picture and that was okay at school.
Now that you have this story, yeah, I have heard this story before. I don't know if you've mentioned it on the podcast before, but there's definitely been a conversation. And as you started talking about the story, I was filling in the gaps. Like, yes, you did a colourful alphabet. So yeah, but double shifts. That's hard going, isn't it? Especially for a kid.
Well, we would have been like 3.5.
No wonder you've got a strong work ethic.
So I wanted to talk about, well, firstly, what's your take on hobbies? I know you've got many.
I mean, I don't know. Yes, I suppose I see. What's weird with me is I do have a lot of hobbies, but I'm a little not faddy, but I will have one hobby at a time, and then when I've sort of done, or I don't know, feel like it's time for me to move on to another hobby, then yeah. So in a weird way, yes, I have had a lot of hobbies, but I tend to stick to one hobby at a time, or I really get involved, or not obsessed, but I get hyper focused on one hobby. And then again, I get told so many times that's another sign of ADHD, Sarah, and I'm very aware of that, very, very aware. But yeah, and also another thing that happens to me as well is, and it's quite fortunate, but a lot of my hobbies have then developed into something more. So podcasting, that started off as a hobby, and now it is part of my career. It's now part of my work. Do you know what I mean? And speaking gigs, entertaining, all of that stuff as well. Again, you could argue that started as a hobby and now it's part of my career. I mean, my hobby at the moment is PT, and I don't know whether that strictly classes as a hobby because it is part of fitness, and yeah, and I'm putting time aside for exercise and making sure that I'm looking after myself. I mean, I'm not a professional weightlifter yet. I mean, watch this space. But also, I'm just thinking at the weekend, me and Tash did a hobby together. So something that we both enjoy doing is playing pool. And we had a weekend together, and we basically went out for some brunch. And walked the dog. We came back and we were just chilling, and we're like, what do we do for the rest of the day? And I was like, why don't we go and play some pool? So yeah, I suppose I do have lots of different hobbies, or I like to try lots of different things, but typically I'll pick one and stick with it and get obsessed. That's my sort of interaction with hobbies.
So I love that, and I love that how some of them have now become something that you've developed into part of your career, but also you do things just for the sake of it, just for the fun of it. I definitely, and I've said this to you before, want to get better at it, because if I looked at what my hobbies were, they're cooking, and I get a lot of joy from that. I don't see it as a chore. I find it quite creative. I don't cook generally with recipes, so I'll just sort of make it up as I go along. and more recently gardening. So my summer flower beds are much better than those haphazard bulb lasagnas I did. So I am enjoying the gardening side of it, and I think I like being outside, walking around the lake. But recently I went to a not Islamic calligraphy, Islamic mosaic type thing. So you use a protractor and a compass and make different shapes and paint them, watercolors, and I enjoyed that. And what was great was when I was doing it, I was not thinking about anything else because you had to concentrate, but at the same time it was fun. And that's, there are so many things that you can get from hobbies that then help your career. And that's the slant I want to take today, because hobbies build career boosting skills. So concentration and focus would be one of them. Problem solving would be another. So if you are really keen on things like crosswords and Sudoku and things like that, or even things like puzzles and gaming and chess, and with like things like painting and gardening, like creativity. I remember buying all of these plants, and I'm Gujarati based. We love a bargain, so I went to B&Q, and all of the ones that were half price, I brought them in. And then I'm thinking, I don't know what to do with these now, so I had to figure out a way of arranging it. I was really happy with the result. But what sort of skills do you think that you could get from hobbies?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm thinking, so if I look back at some hobbies that come to mind almost immediately. So if I take pool, so me and Tash go into play pool, skills that are transferable into work is problem solving. Like you said, like you've got to figure out how to get your ball in, what do you call them? Pocket. There
Pockets.
we go. In the pockets. There's also having patience and not getting frustrated, because sometimes you hit a ball and you want it to go somewhere and it doesn't quite go to plan, and it's about, okay, how do I do that better next time? I mean, I am quite fluky playing pool. There'll be times where I end up doing a trick shot and I'm just like, did not mean to do that at all. But that's some of the things that come with pool. With the PT that I'm doing, so it's PT I have, and it's about weightlifting. So we've set ourselves a goal. So I've got a goal of how much I want to be able to lift, and I've also got a goal of I want to be able to do a pull-up or a chin-up or whatever you want to call it. So, of course, there is skills in that, in the sense of, again, having patience and being kind to myself, that and not getting frustrated that I can't do something straight away and that I need to lead up to it. And I need to learn how I can do a pull-up, and I've got to build my muscles up. I've got to build up my stamina and all of that lovely stuff. There's also planning around my PT sessions. So to get the most out of those sessions, I need to make sure that I've got the right fuel in my body. I always like to have a bit of caffeine beforehand. So time management, I suppose, is one there.
Yeah, it's a really good
and then
one.
Another skill, so I don't do this anymore. I mean, I would like, do I want to go back, or I don't know. So I used to play roller derby, and this comes up a couple of times. So roller derby.
Didn't it come up last episode when you were talking to Matt about Milton Keynes?
Yes. So I had Matt Coley on the podcast, and he is a fellow Milton Keyneser like you.
Yes.
So Milton Keynes came up because I was sort of explaining where roller derby teams get their names from, and it's something to do with the place. So Milton Keynes, concrete cows. You have a lot of concrete cows.
Well, I don't know about a lot. You've been to Milton Keynes. You came to see me. Did you see a single one?
Loads. I couldn't hardly move around the roads, Tazmin. They were just inundated. But skills from roller derby, being part of a team. So
Yeah.
I'd never done a team sport before. Roller derby was my first one. And so,
But
yeah,
I would say with your hobby of podcasting,
yeah,
we've had to learn how to work as a team. We're very different. We have different lifestyles, but that collaboration, that empathy, the understanding that we have for each other, because as everyone knows, this is something we do on the side, fit it in, and we are so adaptable with each other.
yeah. And I think being part of a team and learning to work with one another or work with others is really important, because you have to remember not everyone thinks the same way as you, not everyone works the
Mhm.
same way as you. You need to learn how to have empathy, you need to learn how to come up with solutions together. There's a
Yeah.
collaborative approach. So yes, agree, both in podcasting and in my roller derby days, that was transferable skills there.
Yeah. So if you think about the ones that we've talked about being solution focused, but your concentration, collaboration, communication, creativity, all of that being adaptable. So with my cooking, I'm one of these people that will open up the fridge, see what I've got, and sometimes, y- you just have to make do with stuff that you might not have everything that you need. And I pride myself at how adaptable I am in the kitchen. And all of this stuff, if we think about how fast paced the world of SEO is, current situation that we're facing now, these are the skills that are really going to help you move forward in your career. Because if you can't solve a problem, if you can't be creative, if you can't be curious, if you can't be adaptable, if you can't communicate, you're really going to find it difficult. And I'm going to add another advantage to hobbies. We're coming up to a break now, so I've squeezed this last one in. Hobbies will help you reduce your stress. And if your
Mm.
stress has been reduced, you're going to be able to take those big decisions, take those risks, deal with change, in a way that you would find it hard if you were in a high stress mode, if you're feeling the pressure, if you're feeling exhausted. So, the title of this podcast is, takes hobby seriously. It's not a nice to have. It is absolutely something that we should be building into our lives.
And just something that I'd just something that I'd love to quickly squeeze in as well is, of course, I 100% agree on the reduces your stress, and they're essential. Like, there's been so many times where I've stayed working on some sort of project or some sort of campaign or a bit of work, and I have been so stubborn, and so I need to stay in my seat until I get this thing done.
Yeah,
And I end up probably having to do work on it the next day anyway, because I'm not in the right frame of mind and I have to
yeah,
relook on it. Whereas if you actually was, okay, I'm not getting anywhere tonight or today, I'm going to shut my laptop, I'm going to go and play roller derby, I'm going to go and cook, I'm going to go and play a bit of pool, whatever.
yeah.
You might want to go swimming, you want to go and do some mosaicing. It gives you time to step away, and then when you come back to it, you're refreshed.
And you probably do it in half the time and double the quantity. So brilliant. That has been a very fast flying first half of the episode. So let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the challenges that people face in building habits, building hobbies into their lives, and how to find the way to fit them in.
Sounds wonderful, Tasmin.
Hi, Tasmin here. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Be more visible, earn more, but also take care of your well-being and have work-life harmony? Well, I can help you because I'm offering you a free 30-minute consultancy call. Together we can go through where you want to be and how to get there. Simply click in the link on the link in the show notes, fill in a form, and I'll get back to you.
Sarah here, just quickly popping on to remind you of how you can support the podcast. You can give me and Tazmin a one-off donation. We are set up on Buy Me a Coffee. There is a link in the show notes and we'd be very much appreciative of that. You can also subscribe to the podcast. So in the show notes again, you'll see a link where you can subscribe on your preferred podcast playing app, whether that is Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, whatever you prefer. And whilst you're there, why not give us a cheeky 5-star review? Yeah, SEOs, you know how algorithms work. So all the lovely reviews that we can get will help the podcast.
So, Sarah, welcome back to part 2 of this very fun episode all about hobbies.
I'm loving it. I love the conversation.
And it's not a conversation that I've had with many people, and it's not a conversation that I hear people having. But we've talked about hobbies, we've talked about yours and mine, and the skills that you learn through play effectively. You know, when kids go to reception school, they learn through play. And as adults, we have lost the ability. So many of us have lost the ability, lost the inclination, lost the belief that actually we can learn through play. So why do you think we resist spending time? You spoke just before we went into the break that you've, sat stubbornly in your chair. You're going to get that thing done and not take time to go and, play pool or whatever it is. What causes that resistance, do you think?
Oh, good question. I think it's definitely what we're used to or behaviors that we pick up on other people because, I think it's hard to not admit defeat, but it is hard to take a step back. And maybe it's because you feel guilty. Maybe it's because of the time pressure, the deadline.
Yeah.
So, for example, the times where I've stayed working, it's because at that moment in time, I'm like, if I don't get this done, then I'm going to have to find time in my already busy schedule. How am I going to do that? It's much better if I just carry on working and then, it doesn't affect my other work days. But then it always does affect my other work days. And what would have been better is if I closed my laptop for the day, even if it's a little bit earlier, but closed my laptop and then when I got back to work, be like, okay, I need to finish this job because of the deadline. What can I move around? Because there's always going to be something that you can do. There's always going to be something that you can tweak in your diary. There's always something that you can move around and stuff. So, I think the big thing is sort of letting go, and it's not a defeat. You haven't lost because you're having to step away. So I think that's a big one for me in learning that.
Mm. And you mentioned time in that. Time would be one that I have definitely used. I don't have the time to do that thing. I don't have the time. So my husband and his buddies, they will go cycling quite a few times in the week. And I think probably because they do have that accountability, they don't want to let each other down. They will go in midst of the winter. Like I don't know what, I couldn't do it. But it has so much good benefits for them because they've got the social. We talked about social care last week, social well-being last week. So for me, definitely the time. And I think it's also, I want to say people pleasing, but I don't, it's not quite the same thing. I've got this thing. I'm going to get my work done and I'm going to make sure everyone is okay before I go off and do something for me. And that I don't need to do that. I shouldn't do that. I'm not doing myself any favors. I'm not doing anyone else any favors. But it's almost like, have you eaten? Has everyone eaten? Is anybody hungry? Do I need to create anything? And that stops me a lot. And when you've got people around, by the time you've fed one person, it's time to, and the next and the next, it's time to eat again. So that's a big problem for me. And I think you sort of touched on it, that we don't see hobbies as a productive thing. We don't say, I'm not being productive in this job right now, in whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm going to go off and do that hobby because that's giving me some benefit that'll help me do this thing.
Yes, definitely. And it's interesting that you say about the feeding thing, because if I am usually I'm very good at feeding myself and making sure my partner as well is fed, because she, and again, another ADHD trait is she'll forget to eat because she's so focused on what she's doing. But then obviously I struggle with that as well. So there is times where we've both ended up working till quite late, and then it's 8, half 8, 9 o'clock, and we've got no food, and then it's like, okay, we're going to have to get a takeaway, which isn't great, because then we were going to have a nutritious meal that was going to be really good and really good for us. But because I've been so stubborn with the work, and it's weird, isn't it? Because like you say, it's kind of people pleasing, it's kind of not, but you just, for me, it's like I'm just so appreciative of work and clients and things that I do, that I don't want to do anything to upset them. But then why would they be expecting me to work all of these hours? And if there was a client who would be like, oh yeah, Sarah, you should put me ahead of like eating and making sure that your basic needs are met, then that's not good, is it? That's like a red flag, and none of my clients would. So yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it, that we always end up doing the thing that we can't drag ourselves away from, even though it comes at such a detriment to ourselves, and no one's winning, and you're not going to upset anyone, because they're probably at 8 o'clock at night, they've probably finished work. So yeah.
So would you say that some of the biggies for us not doing or spending more time on hobbies is I don't have time, and an element of guilt?
Time and guilt and expectation as well, I'd
Yeah,
say. Big
yeah.
expectation, unrealistic expectations of ourselves.
So then let's talk a little bit about how we can make time. I think the guilt part is more mindset. If we see a hobby as something that is sharpening our skills, something that's going to manage our stress, and by doing those things, we're going to be far better equipped at doing the work that we want to be doing anyway. Um, but with the other stuff, the time stuff, and actually, you know what? I saw our own lovely Crystal posted on LinkedIn today. I don't know if you've seen it, but she set herself a challenge in July that she was going to walk every single day, no excuses, and she did it. And she racked up goodness knows how many thousands of steps. She feels better for it, refreshed for it. She's lost weight. And I'm so proud of her for doing that, because it's not easy. If you're working as a freelancer, you're spending most of your time, as you and I well know, you're glued to the laptop, doing another thing, doing another thing. But let's have a look at some ways that in the past I've found it beneficial. So I love to go for a walk, and I would then listen to audiobooks while I was going for walks. So I'd either listen to an audiobook, so I'd think, right, let's double up on this. I'm getting some learning and I'm getting my exercise. Or the other thing I would do was use that time for mindfulness. So I might do a gratitude walk or a walking meditation, where you're walking and you're visualizing yourself, and I do this a lot before I'm about to give a talk, a bit like, the talks at Brighton. I'd go through, I'd pretend, I'd visualize getting on stage, giving the talk. So that helps me. Another way to do it is have mini hobbies, or just, you don't have to read the whole book or do the whole of the puzzle or create a masterpiece. You could doodle. You could have a little doodle pad and, 5 minutes between meetings or whatever, you could doodle a little bit. What other examples have you, or what ways have you found are really good methods to get hobbies into your diary?
A big one is, and you've already alluded to it because it's what your partner does, is have hobbies with other people, because then that gives you accountability. And you're not only letting yourself down, you're letting those other people down. So especially if you're a people pleaser, that will help you because you don't want to let
Maybe
your hobby...
people pleasers must have group activities.
It will work. It will work.
Yeah.
I think also for me, actually putting stuff in my diary as well, because if it's really hard, and I'm guessing a lot of people can relate to this, especially if you're a freelancer or even if you're employed and you've just got so much work on and you've got too much work on, you're always going to find something that you can do. Even if you get all your work done, there's always going to be stuff that's going to improve your freelance, going to improve your business, going to improve who you work for, the company that you work for, the company that you're employed under, right? Work will always be there. So I think actually putting time aside in your diary will help you plan that, because then instead of seeing, oh, I've got some time in my calendar, I can do that thing that I've always wanted to do in this work setting. If you've already got that's your hobby, then you're more likely to do it because it's physically in your diary and you can see it. Not putting too much pressure on yourself as well. So I'm going to remember to link to another podcast episode in the show notes, because we had Josephine, wonderful human being, ray of sunshine, good egg, but her podcast episode was all about ending the toxic hustle culture, and we talked about having hobbies as well, and she gave some cracking advice, so I'll make sure that I'll link to that in the show notes. But she said to have a hobby, you don't have to be good at it. You don't have to. Do you know what I mean? You're doing a hobby because you find it fun and you like doing it. You don't have to pick a hobby that you're good at. So take away that expectation from yourself.
It's funny you should say that, because when I went to that the Islamic mosaic class, and we were choosing the colors to paint our creations in, everyone else's, Sarah, looked so beautiful and so refined and so elegant, and the colors I had picked, it looked like Candy Crush.
I love it.
And at the time I was thinking, oh, everybody else's looks really like elegant, and here's mine, this look a bit. But then I thought, it's okay, I came here to have fun. This isn't going on some gallery wall. I'm not being commissioned to create something elegant. I'm just having some fun. And if those are the colors that called to me, then so be it. So I love that. You don't have to be good at it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just, it's the whole purpose is for you to let your hair down and have some fun.
And as soon as a hobby ends up feeling like a chore, then you know you need to do something else, because you don't want to end up, because you want to have a hobby that you're actually excited and you want to do, and it's perfectly okay. So this is why I stopped playing roller derby a while back, not because it became a chore, but well, I don't know. Did it? No, it didn't become a chore. I stopped that for other reasons. But I'm just saying, like, you might start a hobby and then it ends up feeling like you're not really wanting to do it, or you're not wanting to go. So as soon as that happens, find another hobby. Like, you don't have to stick to a hobby. That's the whole great thing about a hobby. You do it until, if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, find another hobby. There's loads out there.
Absolutely. Well, so I would say, to summarize, Sarah, what would what have your takeaways been from this episode?
I'm going to go back to what you said right at the beginning. having a hobby isn't a nice to have, it's an essential,
Yeah, it's a non-negotiable.
a non-negotiable. What would you say?
I would say that remember, it's a start again, a mindset shift for me, that it's a non-negotiable, and I don't have to be there for everyone to do everything. This is important to do for me. And I'm just thinking, what hobby would I have? I will tell you all about it next time. Right now, I think it's probably going to be something like painting. I quite liked the watercolors, and I've got some watercolors at home. So, all right, my hobby for August is going to be watercolors, and then I might change my mind in September.
Well, I quite enjoyed playing pool with Tash at the weekend, and she loves playing pool as well. So I might try and do more of that in August because that's
Okay,
good fun. I'm going to be
brilliant,
trick
brilliant.
shots galore, fluky shots.
Fluky Sarah. Well, it is time for us to wrap up. I know it's slightly shorter than usual, but I think we've got the message across. Everyone, go and do some fun. It's important. So before we say goodbye, just a few reminders that if you're enjoying what Sarah and I are doing and would like to support the podcast, there's various ways that you can do it. One of them is to donate to us via the link in the show notes. That really, really helps us keep this podcast going. And so your support is hugely appreciated. Another one is to follow us on socials, because we love that. And you know what? Come on, um, go on to the SEO Mindset podcast, especially on LinkedIn. I look at the LinkedIn ones more, and tell us what hobby you're going to have in August. We'd love to hear. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, leave us a review, because that is also very, very much appreciated. So
Lovely
until next
stuff.
time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me. Go and get some hobbies, folks.